bring in the Zoom folks here in a second. And we are now live on Zoom. Let's see who the first, Peter Glick, first one in the house on the Zoom side. Peter, hello, sir. We're gonna wait about another 30 seconds to the top of the hour. We have a jam-packed show for you this evening, and I'm thrilled after the hiatus to have this guest. This has been long overdue. And holy cow, Ellie Sanford Moore, Hans and Caitlin Greasy, Jeff and Jane Greasy. Fun fact, Kenny, Jeff and Jane Greasy haven't missed a single sip episode since the beginning. Wow. So they're either really, really dedicated, really, really bored, or like their wine. And I think it could be all of the above in some capacity. Kay Juriak, hello, good to see you. Melissa Robbins, Michelle Marcella, I know you're not alone. Hello to Brian. And we'll give this about another 30 seconds. All of you know the routine by now with regards to how to log in and how to send comments. Denise will put that in the chat line. But I don't know what everybody else feels like, but it feels like an eternity since we've seen everyone, because that Thanksgiving holiday actually threw us off. So that was, the good news was that everyone got a little break from the wine life of Cellar Angels. The bad news is I ate about every single carbohydrate in sight, which is unusual for us, but there was a tremendous amount of eating over the holiday. Worse news is that we've got 2 more holidays coming up in the month of December, so we're going to jam a few tastings in between now and the end of the year. And as we say at Cellar Angels, we were talking earlier this afternoon, Sean Manning, how are you doing? Hope everything's going well on the health front in your household. Nelson Holden, happy sip to you as well. If you would have told us, and Kenny knows this because we booked these events 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks out, we'd rather be lucky than good at Cellar Angels. And we got really, really lucky this time around, because December 4th today is World Cabernet Franc Day. And we just happen to be tasting Cabernet Franc. So this is sip 37 weeks, not counting the off week. 37 weeks you've tuned in from your living room, from your boats. Those of you in the Northeast, those Randall sisters, you guys got a little snow in Cleveland, 8 to 10 inches I heard earlier today. Debbie Long, how are you doing? And now you will not be joining us from the patio. Many of you are tucked inside by a cozy fire. I already saw some pictures. If you hear a cavernous sound, it's because we've moved into a new home, which is completely barren. It is even lacking cellular access. So those of you that normally text me during these episodes, I will not be getting those. My apologies there. I want to celebrate something else in addition to Cabernet Franc Day, because the thing that makes Cellar Angels shine is, in fact, our customers. And we cannot do this without you. And the thing that actually makes us shine behind the customers is our staff. And one such staff member, I want to recognize here in a second, if I can get my computer to work, because she is, without a doubt, the second most important person at Cellar Angels behind our chief operating angel. Can you see Ivy? Oh, hang on, Ivy. Give me a second, technical difficulties.
Freaking out, right?
I have to, there we go. Now let me know if you can see Ivy. There we go. Happy birthday, Ivy. Everyone wish Ivy happy birthday. She is currently 20 years of age. So don't tell anybody, but we cannot survive with this organization without Ivy and her husband, JR, who does so much behind the scenes for us. Thank you both. Happy birthday, Ivy. And now let's get on with the show. 37 weeks in, and just an FYI, we still haven't heard from LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, Tiger Woods, or Bobby Schreiber. All very, very philanthropic, so we're still putting the word out to the universe. We'd like to get in touch with those gentlemen to figure out some of the philanthropic needs that they have. This, as I said at the top of the show, this has been long overdue, because when this pandemic ends, I assure you the place behind me will be the first place I go visit in wine country. And I strongly encourage people that when you get out to wine country, you go visit Blue Rock, you speak with Kenny, and it gives me a great, great joy to introduce to you tonight's guest, the owner, proprietor of Blue Rock Vineyard, Kenny Kahn. I hear a loud applause.
Thank you.
So
thank
I want to cheers you.
And everyone, so nice of you to join us. What a pleasure. And as Martin was saying, we have to do the best we can during the pandemic, but it's soon to be over, we think, and you guys come out and visit us. I think that after tonight, you're going to book your flights.
You are, from my perspective, you're the most important reason to visit Cloverdale in Alexander Valley. The second most would probably be our film crew, James and Leslie, who live now in Cloverdale. But most people don't get up to Cloverdale, which by the crow fly, or not even by the crow fly, it's just up 101 north of Healdsburg. How many minutes north of Healdsburg is it?
Yeah, so our winery is 15 minutes door to door from Healdsburg. And if you're visiting the Bay Area, you first of all, I would fly into the Santa Rosa airport because you skip all the traffic, and it's a great little bitty airport with several flights on both United and American and Alaska. But if you're flying into San Francisco airport, we are an hour and 15 minutes north of the Golden Gate Bridge. So really, it's pretty easy to get to.
That's incredible. And you've been there. I mean, it is easy to get to because you're directly off 101 for the most part. However, it's crazy to me to think that you're right off 101, but it's almost like you're tucked away in a different universe. It is just so picturesque, so pretty. Talk to us about the acreage that you have. Talk to us about kind of the plantings that are both when were there when you acquired it, and how you've kind of stepped it up a few notches in a couple decades.
Okay, if you don't mind, I'd like to actually back it up a little bit before that and talk a little bit about history, because the building that you see behind Martin, that is the restored winery that dates back to 1880. So that is our history. So this was Italian immigrants who came in from Piedmonte primarily. They were attracted to the area because, well, if you come out to see it, you think, oh my God, am I in Tuscany or Umbria? Beautiful rolling hills. And of course, they were attracted to the area because they could grow grapevines, and they brought cuttings with them. They brought a knowledge of viticulture, winemaking. We have now 130-year-old olive trees that we still make an sensational organic olive oil from. So the whole area really dates back to Italian immigration. 1860s is when it started. In our case, 1880 is when the winery was bonded as Villa Maria. And then in our case, the Villa Maria winery didn't survive Prohibition. And if you fast forward basically 100 years, I'll tell you just a little bit about my history. 100 years. I'm a Southerner from Memphis, Tennessee, part of a farming family. We grew cotton and soybeans, row crops. And my eyes were opened to wine by a guy named Milton Picard. So I had, and this is a responsibility that I have today, is that I had a mentor. So Milton Picard was in his 70s. He was a lawyer who sort of adopted me as his friend and as if I'm a son. And he had been collecting great wines from Europe. And I'd go over to his house. I knew nothing about wine. MD 2020, that was my house wine.
It's a medicinal wine. It's a doctor wine, MD 2020.
Yeah, well, you could use it today, for COVID, right?
That's right.
But so I'd go over to Milton's house. I called him Pick because we love this guy, and he would pour great. Really, I'm not kidding you. 1955 Margaux, big smile on his face. Kenny, try this. He's so excited. And, so that's what wine for me is about today. And that's one reason why I'm in the business, is that we love sharing a great bottle of wine.
How old were you when this very kind, gracious, elderly statesman was taking you under his wing, and how old was Pick?
Yeah, so he was in his, I would say, mid-70s, and I was in my mid-20s. I had just gotten married to Cheryl, who is still my wife now, 42 years later.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Cheers to that. And by the way, don't anybody wait to start drinking? I'm sure that your clients know that, but
yeah, they started yesterday in anticipation.
It's Friday night. And he he just really wanted to share his collection. He had a collection of great Burgundies and Bordeaux's, and the first, I have to say, for me, California wine, I gotta remember it like yesterday, is he gave us for our anniversary a half bottle of BV George de la Tour 1978. And we went to the one good restaurant in Memphis that wasn't barbecue, called Chez Philippe. The sommelier had a taste fan, you know, it was like very stuffy. It was actually very good. And we had that, and like, we had already taken our honeymoon in San Francisco. And Cheryl and I looked at each other. We had that moment in our lives where, you know, no children. We're both just starting our professional careers. I was in investments. Cheryl, my wife, neuroradiologist, so she had just finished her residency but hadn't started practicing. We had come to San Francisco, and we took that magic drive down from San Francisco down to Carmel on Highway 1, you know, the coastal highway. We went back to, we were having this dinner with this half bottle of BV. We looked at each other, and I said, Cheryl, sweetheart, let's go to California. My dream, I want to be in the wine and food business. And
So,
she looked at me and she said,
let me back up a quick second. Hello, Stephen. Good to see you, sir. And Amy McGowan on Facebook, interestingly enough, she says hello. She's tuning in from Facebook. She has a reservation to come see you in May. So,
Amy McGowan?
Yep.
Amy, wait a second. Didn't we date? Paris 2006?
I'm not going to touch that one.
Okay.
Not touching that
Oh,
one.
wait, never mind.
But so you're in your 20s, you get married, you got bit by the wine bug with a half bottle. Usually it takes more than a half bottle. But was it something, granted, the magic of US wine, that has cast a spell on quite a few people with understandable reasons. But what was it about the wine, after having matriculated from Mad Dog up to this, you skipped quite a few chapters, and that's a great place to land. What captured you?
Well, we don't have enough time to talk about all the great wines in between. So Milton Picard opened my eyes, and then Cheryl and I started, learning about wine. And first, we would buy that $8 at the time, $8 Chardonnay. It was like ZD, and we thought, oh boy. And it was delicious, big, oaky, buttery. That's what we liked. But there were a lot of, steps in between. But we started learning, we started paying a little bit of attention to it. And then bought I'll never forget, I bought a really good wine glass. It only lasted about a week, but it had, it was finely blown, and, you could really smell out of it. It's just like all of a sudden, oh, wow, I want this to be part of my life. But at the same time, Cheryl was already a great baker and a great cook, but I knew nothing except for barbecue. But I started taking cooking classes from a guy named Joe Carey. In Memphis, on the weekends, there wasn't a whole lot to do, I gotta tell you. So we started doing cooking classes, and wine was also part of that. So cooking became really a central part of my life, as it is today. I mean, I still do, really all the cooking at home. So it was just one of those things where we thought, this is something we wanted to be part of our lives because we find it really interesting. Part of the interest is that you do find a community of other people who have, similar interests. And you also find people who, who you like, who really don't know anything about wine, but who are open to learning. And so that's fun, to turn somebody else on the way I was turned on.
And it is a bit of a pay it forward industry, which I love about it. And we've said for years now at Cellar Angels, wine brings people together. And with that, I'm looking at Julie Fogarty in Chicago. Thank you, Julie, for jumping on. Jan Kiefer, thank you for jumping on. So Doug Rutherford, how are you doing? I think Doug is up in Minnesota. They're getting, the mercury's dropping up or down there. So it does bring people together. And when you add the component that is so magical of food, it really just elevates the experience. And I know it was in or tell me the story when you found this property about how it spoke to you. Granted, 140-year-old olive trees, and they weren't 140 at the time, I understand, but 100-year-old olive trees is still magnificent. How did you find this property?
Yeah, and I'll answer the question that you asked me before that, sorry, I didn't answer, and I'm not a politician either. Um, so what happened, Cheryl and I moved to California. It was like one of these times, let's go. So we had that moment in time where we were free to pursue our dreams. We had big eyes, no money. We were kids in our 20s, starting our professional careers, no money. And so we looked and looked and looked for property when we got out here. It was so disappointing. Even back, this is now 1985, couldn't afford anything in Napa. We looked all over the place. I got a call after 2 years of looking. A realtor says, come up and say they're in Alexander Valley. And honestly, where's Alexander Valley?
Right.
Oh, it's 15 minutes north of Healdsburg. Where's Healdsburg? It's not, back then it wasn't what it is today. Today, it's like, it's the wine town with everything that you possibly want for visiting. And we'll talk later about that. But so I came up and this was 100 acres, hillside, historic, in complete ruins, because since the Villa Maria winery, the original winery, didn't survive Prohibition, and there was just no one, there were various owners who, you know, they owned it, but did nothing with it. There was, you know, no grape production, no winery. It was just a total wreck. It was, the buildings were all uninhabited, but oh my God, I fell in love with it. It was just, it has a natural beauty that is hard to describe. You know, it's just sensationally gorgeous. And so we, you know, we bought it on a lark. We said, you know, we've been looking for a long time. Let's do it. And I have to say that at the time, Alexander Valley wasn't well known. Actually, isn't that well known today, you know?
No, it's a good point.
Silver Oak.
Silver Oak, yep, exactly.
Well, Silver Oak was right next door to this property. But you know what? I mean, today, okay, Silver Oak's next door. We ought to buy it, right? But back then, Silver Oak was like, they were just getting started. They were no big deal. Jordan was like 6 miles down the road. And like, you know, they actually were only a few years old also. And then after that, there was, you know, prunes and plums more than grapes.
Sure.
And so we were able to buy this derelict property in foreclosure. And that was the beginning, in our case, of a 35-year love affair, I got to tell you. And it's still, how can I say it? It's a love affair that I dream about it when I'm away, you know?
Well, and I mean, there's a word for this in real estate, right? They call it a fixer-upper. So here you're buying this derelict property out of foreclosure. Did you ever have any moments of remorse after signing over and you're looking at the property and you look at the magnitude of work that has to be done and you stare at Cheryl and go, what have we done?
Yeah, actually, within the first year, we absolutely had buyer's remorse, because what happened is that, you know, while I had somewhat of a farming background, but you know, cotton and soybeans isn't the same thing.
Right.
Is when we bought the property, it was in foreclosure and nobody else showed up at the foreclosure. So Sagacio is next door to us. Silver Oak was next door. It's like, go to the bankruptcy, and it's like, well, where is everybody, right? This is a beautiful place. Where is everybody? Well, the thing is, they didn't show up for a number of reasons. One is that, this was now 1987, 2 years after we moved to the Bay Area, is that, you know, the wine industry, you know, it was just having its renaissance, and Alexander Valley, as I was saying, wasn't very well known. And, you know, you just couldn't make a living in Alexander Valley. And the property called Blue Rock because of the serpentine rock all throughout.
Okay, you have to stop talking and giving away all of our poll question answers.
I won't go too far with it, but I will say this is that, you know, we took a big risk because we didn't know what in the hell we were doing. We just fell in love with it. And, you know, sometimes you get lucky. And that's really what happened, is that we bought the property because we were in love, and we said, you know, this is what we want to do and let's go for it.
Well, and I applaud that courage and that risk taking. And
it's stupidity.
I wouldn't say that. That's courage and risk taking. And you don't live life sitting on the sidelines. You jumped in, and we're the benefactors of that decision making. So thank you for that. Everybody on Facebook, if you want, I know Amy's over there, but go ahead and make a comment. We've got people monitoring that chat line. And I'm sorry, hang on, the production studio says what? Or like the video if you're enjoying it. I want to talk a little bit about the wine that we have in our glass. And this is the one, good. I'll actually show people this wine because people will always ask, how on earth are the people drinking the wine in advance of the announcement? And that's not at all what I wanted to show you. Can everyone see Ivy's picture still? Oh, my technical difficulties. We had a week off and we can't figure this out. Amateur hour.
I'll show you the wine.
You can show them the wine. I want to show them how to get it. Why is that not coming up? There we go. Can you see the production studio? Denise.
Denise, you're fine.
I'm the glue, Kenny.
She is the glue. Here we go. Now it's third time's a charm. Hey, it's Cabernet Franc day. We have a Cabernet Franc. Let's focus on what's important here, people.
Cheers to that.
Okay, so you go to the Cellar Angels website, and the top 3 items that are being purchased right now are the SIP virtual wine tasting kits. You'll get wines for the next 4 weeks in a row, which is essentially all we have left this year. And then we start up again in January. The gift sets, if Santa says, make your list, check it twice. And if you haven't started sending gifts out, UPS is not going to be your friend because of the pandemic and because of short staff and because of the holiday traffic. We need to get these gifts out earlier. But this little gem right here is the 2016 Best Barrels Cabernet Franc. That is what we are all drinking. So the Best Barrels concept, to me, is something that I think more wineries should do. And it's probably something really geared towards a limited production winery. And can you walk me through kind of what is your case production and across all the varietals that you offer? Total.
Yes, our total case production runs around 14,000 cases a year, which by comparison to most other wineries is really small size. Mm-hmm. And we are, almost entirely estate, and by estate meaning that we own the vineyards, we make the wine on the property, we bottle it there, we're in complete control of the entire process.
And in addition to the Cabernet Franc, what else is in the portfolio? And someone says that this Best Barrels 2016 may not even be on your website as they're currently scouring your website.
Okay, I think it's sold out. I don't really handle the sales, but I'm pretty sure that it's sold out. It's funny. We made about 500 cases of this, and we thought, oh, that's a lot. It was the first time for Cabernet Franc. We thought that's a lot. Maybe it'll take us 3 years to sell it. And it's like, oh my God, people just love the wine. It did get great reviews. I'm not going to talk about scores, but it got some great, professional reviews. But much more important is that we get reviews all the time. People say, wow, I just tasted this wine. Can you send me some more? So that's the review we care about.
Well, and I want to talk about the Best Barrel designation. But before you answer it, we have our first poll question for the audience. And people are texting me telling me to get to the polls. And I'm surprised my texts are coming through because I haven't been able to get a text virtually all afternoon. Thank you, AT&T. We'll probably be switching to Verizon. Ivy makes certain Verizon gets a hashtag and we get some sponsorship. So let's talk about the Best Barrels designation. The Best Barrel designation dates back to which year for Blue Rock? 2003, when I was awed by a certain barrel. By the way, this is me speaking as if I'm Kenny. 2005, as this truly was a once in a 100-year vintage. 2017 is a tribute to our winemaker and viticulturists for their farming dedication. So, Kenny, what you don't know is that there's a lot of pari-mutuel wagering on this sort of exam question. So there's we've incorporated a behind the scenes gambling app because if you're going to be drinking wine and you might as well throw a couple bets on, right?
Yeah. It's like, do I get to bet or do I get to vote?
You get to answer.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to give folks about 10 more seconds. I see answers all over the board. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right.
So there's the results.
Whoa. Somebody's done their homework.
I know I have to shorten the time limit on the questions because people cheat. So it's kind of like in the old day. Just because they're angels doesn't mean they're not above some, unscrupulous behavior. But remember in the old days, it was pencils down. I have to start saying, okay, smartphones down. No one can cheat anymore. So tell me, I see, and I love the best barrel designation, but how did that come about and when?
I trademarked it, by the way, believe it or not. Okay, so the way it came about is that back in 2003, so 40% got it correct. Back in 2003, my consulting winemaker, who at the time was a guy named Nick Goldschmidt, great guy, great winemaker. And, it's a small winery. Yeah.
All of the angels know Nick Goldschmidt because we featured Nick about 4 months ago. So that's fantastic that they can tie that together, that he was your first consulting winemaker. And you're right.
Yeah, he was actually introduced to me by the first master of wine in the country, a guy named Joel Butler, who was in a tasting group with me. And I said, when I bought the property, as you know, in 87, in 1999, we said, let's make some wine. And that's when Joel Butler said, well, there's a guy in Alexander Valley where you're located. He's with Simi at the time. He's a great winemaker. And he introduced me. And I just thought Nick was the greatest guy and super talented winemaker. So in 2003, one of the things that a small winery can do is taste every barrel before bottling. A big guy can't do it because, there's just too many barrels, right? So we came across this one barrel of wine that was like, oh my God, it was the wow bottle, right? And I should have called it, instead of best barrels, I just should have called it wow. Wait a second, I got to make myself a note. Can I trademark that?
Right.
But anyway, it was one barrel of Malbec, and it was like so good. So we said, okay, let's bottle that up for our mailing list. A barrel is 24 cases of wine. That's it. And oh my God, was that ever the most delicious wine. I have about 3 bottles or 4 bottles left, and it's still sensational. So the concept of it, which we stick to today, is, let's do something without any compromise. And it's not every vintage. So it's only if and when there's something that we think is fantastic. And it's something that we can make without making any compromises because it's small production. So it's not about making money. It's about legacy. It's about doing something that is as good as you can do it. That's it.
Who's involved in that decision-making process? And before you answer, Mark Challenor, hello. Scotland Kiefer, hello to you too. Thanks for jumping on. So who gets to sit at that table for the best barrel designate meeting? And how is, and this, by the way, this is where I kind of geek out because I love the tasting blending tables and I love the beakers and the science behind it and the note taking and then coming back to it in an hour or two or maybe the next day. How do you guys do it for the best barrels?
Sorry, that's Oreo.
That's okay. I thought it was my stomach.
Yeah, so the best barrels has evolved from Nick Goldschmidt and I just saying, wow, this is great, let's bottle it up, to now we take a team approach, which is better because you don't want to make any mistakes. Once you bottle something, it's in the bottle. And if you have something that's really designated as best barrel, you want it to be a genuine reserve, right? And there's so many fake reserves. It goes back to Glen Ellen. Maybe I shouldn't pick on anybody, but it was Glen Ellen Proprietor's Reserve, right? 3 million cases of California Chardonnay. And so, it didn't mean anything after a while. And so we thought, let's go back to, a real meaning. Best barrel is so simple to understand, is that it is the best barrel. Today it's plural, best barrels. Mm-hmm. So to answer your question about today, we take a team approach. We have Kent Humphrey, who's our consulting winemaker. We have Rogelio Alvarado, who's our head winemaker in-house. So they have great palates. So there's an artistic element to what they do, but there's also a technical element because they know, Rogelio actually knows every barrel of wine. He really does. And then I'm on the team as the inspiration because my palate is what drives the stylistic decision. And what I want is I always, it's very simple, is that I grew up on European wines, is I want something that represents our great beautifully tended California vineyard, but with a European sensibility. And that means something that shows off the vineyard, that's lower in alcohol, not hot, not a lot of new oak. You really want the fruit to come through, something that's balanced and food friendly. So I set the style. And then Carla Jeffries, who is our general manager, is also on the panel. She interfaces a lot with our customers. So it gets feedback, from the people who are really going to drink it.
Does every vote count the same, or do you maybe have a 21% margin as opposed to the other 4 at 19 or so? And I know my math doesn't work there, but is every vote equal?
Well, we're still counting the votes from the last best barrel selection, and there were a couple of hanging chads that we're still dealing with.
Oh, now you're dating yourself, and I just moved to Florida where that's still prevalent.
But hanging chads aside, no, I think that we all, and I hope it's not just crowd mentality, but I think at the end, as we taste these things, is that I think we all agree. But the way it works is that with best barrels, we know the vineyards so well. And then before we pick the grapes, because we do all of our own farming, and we are, by the way, certified sustainable, but we have all of our own crews. We do all of our own farming. It's our labor. They're year round. We know what the grapes, you can look at the grapes, you can taste them, you know what the season's like. So it starts off there. So we know which blocks of grapes are going to be the outperformers. And so it starts up, and then as they're fermenting, you can look at the colors, you smell them, you get a really good idea early on. The better lots, there's a triage, right? So the better lots go into the better oak and are destined for something that you hope will be estate quality, and so on and so on. But it's not until, really just before bottling that we do the final blends. And I have to say that
I think it's safe to say not every lot gets a trophy. I think there's something to that.
No, well, I mean, what best barrels means is it's like if and when there's something that's fantastic.
Well, I love it. And is this 100% Cab Franc?
This is 100% Cab Franc. I wanted to tell you a little, if you don't mind, a little story behind the Cab Franc.
It's a 3-hour program, Kenny. Take your time.
Given that this is Cab Franc Day. So I originally planted the Cab Franc because we wanted to have the Bordeaux 5. I'll be honest with you, I did not know much about Cab Franc in California and how it would behave or anything. And so it was just like, we want to have it, right? Because we want to play with it as part of the mix. The budwood we call it, it's a suitcase clone. So it came from Cheval Blanc, which I'm sure most of you know. Cheval Blanc in Saint-Emilion is probably the top Cabernet Franc based vineyard in the world. That doesn't mean that. So that's where the genetic material comes from. There's a guy named Rex Geithner who worked at Cheval Blanc. He's a vineyard manager in Napa, or at least he was. I don't know where he is today. And he brought back these cuttings illegally and started a vineyard. And then as the vineyard, it grows a mother block. And then finally, we were able to source budwood from him. I think this vineyard dates back to 1991 is when we planted it. And so it's like, I hope it's good. That's the way.
That is incredible. That is incredible. And I'm sure the statute of limitations on the cuttings has long since expired, so you're fine.
Well, that's why I can name names. But I just want to tell you the story behind this one, though, is that when I bottled up a case of each of the 5 Bordeaux 5 from the vineyard for a charity event that I was doing a few years back. And for whatever reason, they canceled the charity event. And they were in these white boxes in the cellar. And we, years later, we're thinking like, you got to clean things out, right? It's like, what those boxes? Oh, those were barrel samples that I was going to use and didn't use. We picked a bottle of Cabernet Franc and we opened it. And I swear to you, when we opened it, it's like the room filled up with these aromas. And everybody said, whoa, baby, we got to make a great Cabernet Franc. So that really piqued our interest in this vineyard for great Cabernet Franc.
And I think it's for Cellar Angels loyalists and fans and our supporters. I encourage you to do a little Google searching on Chateau Cheval Blanc and just look at the vineyard sites and look at the winery itself. The winery should be in the Museum of Modern Art. It is just an unbelievable architectural design. They have, I believe, 46 different individual vineyard blocks, and they know a thing or two about Cab Franc. And it's one of those brilliantly rewarding rabbit holes you can go down on the internet, and you could spend an hour and a half or more just looking at Chateau Cheval Blanc and just how picturesque it is. So that's not a bad place to get some cuttings from. And another not a bad place to go visit, and it's much closer, is in fact your property. So I am going to go to the highlight of the show right now, and actually let's show people where your property is.
Okay, good.
And we can talk a little bit about some Google Earth. I'm not certain that the production studio recognizes their mic is on. I don't know what's going on over there.
Chat, they've already got it loaded up.
Oh,
Google Earth.
the chat crowd is getting unruly. So
You must have hired Denise back again.
yeah, it's very tough to get rid of her. She knows all of the employment laws. So let's talk a little bit about wine region. And for Cellar Angels, we only focus on one area of the world, and it's our favorite area, and that is, of course, Napa and Sonoma. And as we say, and you can even see this in Chateau Cheval Blanc in Bordeaux in Spain. Carrie Schuster, how are you doing, young lady? You will notice that every major wine region, every prolific wine region of the world has a maritime influence. The Sonoma and Napa region has dozens of them. And it really is what makes them unique. Yes, you have the Pacific Ocean. Yes, you have San Pablo Bay. You have volcanic activity. You have, I think, 17 of 33 known soil types in between the two valleys that exist on the planet Earth. And they're all within this little playground of canvas for winemaking. And when you think about the Russian River Valley, Dry Creek, and all the different tributaries in here, this is really where you want to craft handmade boutique wine. It is something special from a region standpoint. We are spoiled rotten at Cellar Angels to be able to share these limited production wineries with you. But for those of you, I want to just do a little quick detour, because as you can hear in the echoes, this was our former home where I think you guys are freezing. And born and raised, 17 years, lived just south of Wrigley Field. Miss it terribly. I don't miss the mercury when it's below zero, and I know that's coming. And now you're all invited to come visit us at this little neck of the woods. That's the development we are now in. And our house is literally right there. This was taken about 8 months ago when the houses weren't complete. All man-made reservoirs. Caught a bass in this lake today. So that's how I pass my time now when the internet's not working. But more importantly, let's go to where the guest is from. And this is the little slice of heaven that I want to show you, Blue Rock.
It's Las Vegas. Oh, there we go.
It could be Las Vegas, and the focus hasn't caught up. But I actually think, and you can see, I mean, there we go. Now it's starting to zoom in. My Google Earth is acting up tonight. The property topography, Kenny, is something that is amazing, because as we pull out, you know, you're right off of 101. And
yeah, we're about
yet,
2 miles back.
I'm sorry?
We're about 2 miles back from 101.
And it's amazing from that standpoint, how you're right up, like you said, hillside, and all of the best wines around the world, whether it's Rioja, and Carrie's an expert in Rioja, whether it's Bordeaux, you know, even in New Zealand, they come from the hillsides. And you're blessed to have found this. And this view, which is currently out of focus, that those folks at Google need to update their software. This is the view behind me. This is this beautiful old stone structure that I'm sure you said was dilapidated and not in the best shape. But your soil topography is incredible. And talk to me a little bit about, from a vineyard standpoint, the soil types. You talked about Cabernet Franc and why it's just so magical. The Bordeaux varietals seem to thrive in your location.
Yeah, so, you know, of course, there's the notion, right, of terroir. I shouldn't say notion because it's very real. So terroir is I guess, the amalgamation of a bunch of different things. It is the climate, and in our case in Alexander Valley, we have marine influence from the Pacific Ocean, so we get morning fog, and the fog blows off, sort of by 10 or 11 a.m. in the morning, and then it starts heating up during the day. So we have an average diurnal swing of about 45 degrees. So
Wow.
what that means is you have very warm days, which Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot, the Bordeaux varietals, like the warmth because they need it to ripen, whereas Pinot Noir, of course, doesn't like it. But then it gets cold at night. So, if you're, out during the day, you're wearing shorts and short sleeve shirt, at night, you better bring a sweater when you come because it's, there's that nighttime air. But what that does, the vines kind of shut down and they retain their acidity. So I think that what you get in our area is that, and this is all of Alexander Valley, I think, in spite of the soils, is that you're going to get a freshness. You get a natural acidity that makes it different than a Napa wine. And our aspect is important. We are actually our hillside is actually facing east.
And why is that important? And I asked that question because it's so funny. After interviewing winemakers for 15 years, our rows go east and west. We don't use cover crop. We use cover crop. Our rows go north and south. We have east facing. We have west facing. So I'm always fascinated by what it brings to the final product and to hear why your aspect is so important.
Yeah, well, admittedly, some of this is conjecture because, this is what we think it is. But we're in a warm area, and in the afternoon, the west sun is really intensely hot as it's, in the afternoon setting, and it's too hot. So having an east facing vineyard actually is cooler than something that's getting all of that afternoon heat. Conversely, if you were in a cold area like Chablis, you'd want to have a south facing vineyard because you need the heat. So, people have a tendency to oversimplify the notion of terroir. I'll give you a good example is that a vineyard that is very low production is going to be the better vineyard. And that's simply not true. Is that what you have to, the production of a vineyard has to match the soil and the climate. And I'll give you an example is that if you have a vineyard, like let's say you're in Napa Valley, you're in deep river soils, if you're only growing, 2 tons per acre, those grapes are going to get ripe in June.
Right.
Because you've got too much capability, too much water, too much fertility, too much energy going into ripening a small amount of grapes. So that's really not a good thing. That's not balance. So
now that's
vineyard
for the grapevine, that's gluttony. It's not struggling. There's no fighting amongst another grapevine. Everything is right at its disposal, and it just like you said, it'd be ripe in June and it would be flabby and not good.
Right. So you can't. I mean, one of the things that makes wine interesting and makes my job interesting, is that you can't just oversimplify it and come up with some simple thing that fits all wines and all vineyards. Each one is truly unique. But I will tell you that the one thing that isn't unique about terroir is the Goldilocks principle, and that is that great vineyards always want things just right. And just right means that the vines need to have access to enough minerals, enough moisture, enough fertility to, grow a commercial crop and to ripen it, but not so much that they're really happy and they're growing too much and, they grow too much that doesn't have any character. So and the best vineyards have it all just right. There's just the right amount of nutrition, the right amount of moisture, and so on.
Well, and that's why I think this is always like dancing on a razor blade, because you can have the best vineyard, you can have the best soil and stuff like that, but you still have Mother Nature as the wild card every single year.
Well, that's the vintage variation. But an important part of terroir, and this is not, I don't think that it's the official definition, it's my definition, is there's absolutely a human element. Because you can take, and I'll give you a good example in Burgundy, for example, where you'll have one, let's say, Premier Cru vineyard of 40 acres, and it might have 8 different owners, each making wine from the same, essentially the same soil, the same terroir. And the wines are radically different, stylistically, quality-wise, and so on. So you really do have to put a human element into that. And I know that because it's really what you put in is what you get out. It's that's what makes it satisfying, is that you really get the results of your labor, and you get to taste it at the end of the vintage.
No, I agree with you. And I think one of the other things that has attracted us to you and Carla and Jared and the team and everything you're doing there is the passionate and deeply held belief about experience. And you want people to have an unbelievable experience when they come to Blue Rock. And you've basically built, I think, a model that other wineries would want to emulate. And it's one of the reasons why I can't wait to visit you to experience it. But what fascinates me is how you incorporated food into the whole enchilada. And also, I think it bears mentioning for those folks that are very, very skilled travelers, specifically luxury destinations. You are probably familiar with the luxury travel group Inspirato. And Kenny's Winery is one of about a half dozen or so designated Inspirato luxury wine region properties that Inspirato guests can actually stay at. So they don't do
No, we're
that
the only one. We're the only winery that you can stay at, Inspirato property. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Comstock. They just added Comstock. Pardon me.
No, so an Inspirato doesn't do that lightly. It's not like they're throwing darts at a property board or anything like that. There is a meticulous crew that goes out and researches, and you have to meet certain levels of refinement, certain levels of elegance, quality, class. It has to be a perfect experience. And Kenny has combined that, and especially with the food experience. And we'd be remiss as Cellar Angels to not let you talk to us about, and you're the cook, so I want you to wax poetic about how fascinating this is to grab ingredients off this property and to have that culinary experience. Share with us kind of that whole model and why it's important to you.
Well, first of all, I want to say that yes, I am a cook, but I'm not the cook. When people come, we have 2 chefs who are like Michelin star chefs who really know what they're doing. So they, for our guests at least, they do the cooking. Occasionally I do, because
Sure.
we love hospitality. That's a big part of what we do. So we are wine, food, hospitality. And so it took me years to finally get enough money, I guess, and just, to get the guts to redo the 1880s winery. It was so dilapidated. And I hired this great architect, and, we started the process. It took us 5 years to renovate the facility that's behind you, Martin. It took us 5 years to renovate it, and it is gorgeous. And I have to say, part of our sustainability, we saved every scrap of redwood from the renovation and reused it. We made all the windows, the doors, the ceiling in the tasting room is all out of 130-year-old redwood. It's gorgeous. But frankly, I made the decision early on that I wanted to do things differently than the way, there's so many other wineries to visit. There's like 800 between Napa and Sonoma. I thought, let's do things differently. And we wanted people to come in and really be connected with us. And so in order to do that, you can't have a public tasting room where you've got, 100 people a day coming through, and you've got, a bunch of kids who are making, $15 an hour who are behind the bar pouring, who don't know anything. You have to, if you're going to have a real experience, you got to do it. You got to deliver. So we decided early on that we were going to be private, by appointment, and by referral. And by referral means that people who know us, they're not just like, oh, I did an internet search and, like, so, and all of you, who know us now, who are part of connected through Cellar Angels or through Inspirato, that counts to us as a referral. And the reason we do that is that when people come, they have all of our attention. There's only one group, and a group is one person, if that's what it is. But one group of people at a time, and our experience is 2 to 2.5 hours. It's a tour of the historic property, of the gardens, and we do grow a lot of our own organic vegetables in addition to making olive oil and of course making the wines. And then the tasting is in a living room. There's no tasting bar. We do, for those people, we always have food with any tasting, but for those people who want to have a really great private dining experience, we have the vintner's table. And the vintner's table is really based off of my experience traveling to Europe, where I was lucky enough to be with some, winemakers, and they said, hey, let's go have dinner. It's just so much fun. And those are the experience. I'll never forget being in Champagne and trout fishing with the champagne maker, and then going to his home, and I'm the only one who caught the trout.
I love that. And this is what the magic that we try to bring to the Cellar Angels experience is access like that, because those, and by the way, in my opinion, it harkens back to your time with Pip when you were in your 20s. And someone took you and shepherded you under his wing and exposed you to great wines, great experiences, and now you're paying it forward. And it's really what wine is all about. It needs to be shared. I have called it for 15 years a liquid passport to travel the world. And when you get to experience it with great food in an environment like you just described, it's off the charts and something that you're going to remember for the rest of your life, which is, I can't wait to get out there.
Our I don't know if we're going to even call it a wine club, but our membership, we really think of it as a membership, is called Ambassador. And before anybody can sign up, they have to agree that they will be ambassadors. Otherwise, we won't let them sign up. And our members are such great ambassadors. So, even though we've gotten some very nice press, we don't rely on press. We really rely on word of mouth. And our entire business is word of mouth.
And it's interesting because
I'm going to pour some more.
Go. It's actually how you and I met, was word of mouth. Was our Cellar Angels tasters are pretty savvy, and they know a good thing when they see one. And it was a longtime Cellar Angels customer, Sean Manning, who actually has dropped off because I know he's got some family health things that they're attending to.
I know Sean personally, yeah.
Absolutely. So he says, you guys need to feature Blue Rock. And Kenny and Carla and I have been talking off and on for probably close to 18 months, and the timing just didn't work. And now we made it work in a pandemic. So hats off to us. but there's something.
One of the things about doing things the way we do it, where it's private and there's no one else around, it's just, we have one-on-one, really 2 to 2.5 hours with our guests. And our guests are all, they're pretty special. I mean, it's just amazing the people who come through, but we develop genuine friendships. They're really it's not just commercial, they're really ongoing friendships.
No, it's funny because we often talk at Cellar Angels, we don't have customers, we have supporters. And you have ambassadors, and supporters are different. They feel for the company. They want the company to succeed. They love what it's about, and it's imprinted in their DNA. And so, and wine has allowed that to happen. So we are eternally grateful.
I can see that.
We didn't get to let's talk about your portfolio. So we talked about the Malbec, we talked about the Cabernet Franc. Tell us about some of the other wines. And I'm going to ask the dreaded question on if you have a favorite.
Well, the old answer is it's the one I'm drinking.
Yeah, it's the one that's closest to me.
No, I don't think I have a favorite, really.
Okay.
Because honest to God, we will not bottle anything that we don't think is really the best of class. So wines serve different purposes. So I'm going to start off with, I'll show you, this is a wine. This is our most popular wine around the country. It's called Baby Blue. I don't know if you can see that.
I can.
And we make a Baby Blue Rouge, and we make a Baby Blue Blanc. And so I love Baby Blue because it saved the winery. So where it comes from, we're Blue Rock Vineyard, right? Because of the Serpentine rock. And then you know that I love European wines because that's how I grew up. And in Europe, when you replant a vineyard and you have young vines coming into production, young vines are just like people. Is that as you get older, hopefully you get a little bit wiser, you get more interesting, more layered, more complex. And the same thing is true of vines. And so the young vines from a replanted vineyard go into a wine that is stylistically, it's made stylistically so you drink it earlier, it's more approachable, and it's also less expensive.
Right.
So that baby blue is the young vines on the Blue Rock estate, is how it started life. And the reason it saved us is that it started in 2008 vintage. Then we had the recession in 2009. And during the recession, everybody said, you know, I'm used to drinking a $60 Napa Cabernet. I'm not going to pay that much anymore. I want a great $25 wine, baby blue. That's it. So it's everything we grow on the estate. It's a blend of the Bordeaux 5. So it's mostly Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot, but with small amounts of Cab Franc, Malbec, Petit Verdot, and even a little bit of Syrah. And it retails for under $30. And it's, a matter of fact, we deliver it to your door for under $30. And it's just simply fabulous wine. I mean, it like so over delivers. It's our hardest wine to make because, you know, making $100 wine is easier than making something that's just fantastic year in and year out. That is, you know, the bargain of all the wines out there.
Right. Yeah. No, that's difficult.
So I have to say, I love baby blue. But having said that, we make a small amount of Pinot and Chardonnay that we source from great properties in Sonoma, and people just love them. I think we're about to introduce a new vintage because we're sold out. Then the best barrels wines, you know, we talked about best barrels and best barrels, the Cabernet Franc. I love the Cabernet Franc for all the reasons that it's a hard wine to make because Cabernet Franc does not like a lot of growing circumstances. It's very specific. It's a pretty vigorous growing vine, so it can taste really sort of weedy and stemmy, and oftentimes it's just unpleasant. And genetically, we found this out not long ago because UC Davis is able to do genetic decoding of what vines are. Genetically, Cab Franc is a marriage, it's a love affair in the vineyard in Bordeaux some 300 or 400 years ago between Cabernet Sauvignon and Sauvignon Blanc. Did you know that?
I did. I heard about that party. It was a torrid love affair between those two. Late night rendezvous, and we're all better for it.
Yeah, we're all better for it. But, you know, both of those have an herbal element, right?
Right. Yeah.
So Cabernet Franc, you know, it has to have, and our wine has a little bit of herb in it, but, you know, it's just like any seasoning in the kitchen, right? Is a little bit of something gives it complexity, and too much is like, oh, damn it, we put too much in there and we ruined it. And so this wine, I mean, for me, our Cabernet Franc, it has a little bit of that herb in the background, but, you know, aromatically, it has, I think of it as violets. Are we going to do another?
No, you're good.
I don't want to spoil anybody's thunder, you know. For me, I think of it as violets. I get some rose petal. I love the aromatics on it. Then flavor-wise, I get great black fruits, really nice structure. I'm eating some cheese. These are a gift that was given to me just the other day, and these are Nicasio Valley is like, you know, this local cheesemaker that's doing a great job, and this is their Alpine cheese. It's called it's their reserve, and it's just wonderful with this wine.
Way to rub it in. The best barrels Cabernet is called a blend. What is the best barrels Cabernet a blend done, or is it 100% Cab?
No. The best barrels Cabernet Sauvignon is really 100% Cabernet Sauvignon.
Okay, good.
It could be a blend because we're not afraid to do a best barrels blend. We've done that on many occasions, but the current one happens to be 100% Cabernet Sauvignon. We have made, best barrels is if and when. So it's not.
That's a good point. That's right. It's
Right,
like
so
vintage champagne. It's not going to
Yeah.
happen every year.
It's not every year, but it's also not Cabernet Sauvignon. It's not Cabernet Franc. 2016 was the first time that Cabernet Franc ever really kind of made it, where we said, "Oh wow, let's bottle it."
And,
So it has
and
to
the
have
right, the right bank blend, what's in that?
Okay, well, let me back up. 2016, we hired a new winemaking team starting in 2015, and we brought all the production in house. And they kind of got their feet on the ground in 2015, but by 2016, they really knew the vineyard, and they were really, refining the oak program, and it was a great vintage. So it's like the stars were all lined up, right? So everything. We had so many good wines. I got to tell you, we made a Petit Verdot. We made 60
Mhm.
cases at the winery. It's gone. Forget it. They saved I think they saved one bottle, and that was it. I was really upset with Carla, she's looking at her bonus saying, I better sell more wine. So she sold it all. But Petit Verdot, that was like, oh, it was just sensational. What a vintage that was. And so, so we made a bunch of different wines, but, we always stick to our guns of like, it's only if and when there's something that's just, it's our legacy.
All right, you're gonna make me ask again, what is in the right bank blend?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Keep me on track. So the right bank blend, of course, it's a nod to Saint-Emilion, to Pomerol, mostly to Saint-Emilion. And so it is mostly Cabernet Franc, and it's the same Cabernet Franc that we have in this particular one we're drinking tonight. It is Merlot. So I don't have the percentages, but a smaller amount of Merlot, and just a little bit of Cabernet Sauvignon for extra backbone.
Oh, that is awesome.
And when people taste it at the winery, I mean, I think we made 125 cases. We have a handful remaining. It is so good.
I was going to say, that sounds sublime.
It is.
And because we are givers, we have one more poll question. And
Okay.
if I want to end on a high note, Cellar Angels, so don't disappoint. The city where Kenny learned to appreciate fine wine is Lubbock, Texas, St. Louis, Missouri. We did talk about ribs and barbecue, or Memphis, Tennessee.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give this 10 more seconds, and then the sponsors are telling me we have to go to a commercial break. That's unusual. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. All right. Who's the contrarian? Who came late to class? That is whoever picked St. Louis. Reveal yourself in the chat section. That is Julie Fogarty. You are very welcome. I want to tell everyone that yes, we do have to take a couple days off in the month of September, or I'm sorry, month of December, because of the way the holidays fall. But we are going to be right back here next week for SIP 38. And it goes fast. This is a winery that, and this isn't hyperbole, this is a winery that I am dying to visit because of everything that Kenny talked about. And more importantly, about the passion, the romance, the dedication, the way they harmonize the land, the ingredients, wine, food, hospitality. I mean, it's everything that we aspire towards at Cellar Angels. And Kenny, you've been outstanding as our host this evening and our guest and our tour guide. So I want to give one final cheers to you on that.
Thank you. I want to give a cheers to you and Denise for doing such a great job. And I also think that, the foundation of Cellar Angels, is giving something. And, we all recognize, I recognize at least how lucky I am and how wonderful it is to be in this country, to live the life that I live. So, it's always nice to be reminded that we need to be generous. So thanks to you and Denise for that.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. We are humbled. That's very, very kind to say. We appreciate it. wine to us is religion to a degree, because we love getting people together. We love opening up a bottle. And right now we have to do it virtually. Very soon, we're going to be doing it in person. Next week, we have Ron Estates, and it's going to be a family story that you're really going to want to listen to and learn from, because I did not know there was a certified soil specialist degree that you could get, but this gentleman is one. But in the interim, I'd like you all to have a wonderful evening. Stay warm. I know some people were sending me some pictures of fireplaces. So we do not have one in Naples, nor is it needed. But be good to one another. Open up a good bottle of wine. Have a fantastic meal. Thank you for all your support. We can't do this without you. And stay safe, everyone. We will see you again next week. Kenny, thank you so much. It was outstanding.
What a
Cheers.
pleasure for me. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.